Imagine waking up one morning to headlines that Europe is at war, cities on high alert, military forces mobilizing, and leaders scrambling for solutions. For most people, this sounds like something out of a history book, a distant memory of World War II or the Cold War. But according to one of NATO's top former commanders, this terrifying scenario may be much closer than we realize. Admiral Rob Bauer, NATO's former top military chief, recently issued a chilling warning. Europe could face a full-scale war with Russia within the next 3 to 5 years. Not decades away, just a few short years from now. For a long time, this kind of conflict seemed unlikely. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, NATO countries united strongly against Moscow. Europe increased its military spending, and the West seemed committed to isolating Russia on the global stage. But now, that balance of power may be shifting, and according to experts, one man is driving that shift: Donald Trump. Since returning to the political stage, Trump's actions have created serious concern across Europe. His words, his decisions, and his attitude toward NATO are sending shockwaves through Western alliances. And according to Admiral Bauer and others, they may be paving the way for a dangerous new conflict. So what exactly has Trump done to raise these concerns? On February 12th, Trump had a critical 60-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin. In that one-hour conversation, Trump effectively reversed years of US-led efforts to isolate Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. What's worse, Ukraine wasn't even part of the conversation. During the call, Trump agreed to open peace talks with Russia, but without inviting Ukraine to the table. For Ukraine, this was a devastating blow. The country has spent years fighting for its independence, pushing back against Russian aggression with support from Western allies. By choosing to exclude Ukraine from peace talks, Trump signaled something deeply concerning: that he was more interested in finding common ground with Putin than in standing by Ukraine. But that phone call wasn't the only warning sign. Just weeks earlier, the United States shocked the international community by siding with Russia in a key United Nations vote. The resolution, led by European countries, condemned Moscow's aggression in Ukraine and formally labeled Russia as the aggressor. This was meant to send a clear message that Europe stood united against Putin's actions. But when the vote came, the United States, under Trump's leadership, refused to support it. Instead, America joined Russia in voting against the resolution. Even after Europe amended the document to address US concerns, Trump's administration refused to back it, choosing instead to abstain. For NATO allies, this was a wake-up call. If the United States, traditionally Europe's strongest supporter, was willing to align itself with Russia at the UN, what else might Trump be prepared to do? Many experts believe this shift in US policy could have devastating consequences. With NATO weakened and Europe left uncertain about America's commitment to defending its allies, Putin may feel emboldened to push his military ambitions even further. And this is where Admiral Bauer's warning becomes especially urgent. According to Bauer, NATO forces are currently stretched thin. While Europe has been steadily improving its military capabilities, it's still unprepared for a large-scale conflict. Countries like Germany, France, and Poland are increasing their defense budgets, but these efforts take time, and time may be running out. If Russia were to escalate aggression in the Baltics, Eastern Europe, or even target NATO member states directly, the West could find itself scrambling to respond. In this fragile environment, every political move carries enormous weight. By openly aligning with Putin, Trump risks undermining the alliances that have kept Europe stable since World War II. Critics argue that Trump's approach is dangerous not only for Ukraine, but for global security as a whole. Some believe his actions are part of a calculated strategy to shift US foreign policy away from traditional alliances and focus on bilateral deals that put America first. Supporters of Trump, however, argue that he's simply being pragmatic, seeking peace through dialogue rather than conflict. They claim that by opening talks with Putin, Trump is creating a path toward ending the war in Ukraine, one that avoids further escalation. But for Ukraine, and for much of Europe, that path looks increasingly risky. By negotiating with Putin without conditions, Trump may be giving Russia exactly what it wants: greater influence, reduced Western resistance, and a fractured NATO alliance. For now, Europe is on edge. Military leaders are accelerating their preparations. NATO is reinforcing its eastern flank, and countries are reevaluating their defense strategies. Admiral Bauer's warning isn't just speculation. It's a call for Europe to take urgent action before it's too late. If tensions continue to build, the countdown to conflict may have already begun. The question now is whether Europe and the world can change course before disaster strikes.